Next week, we'll be discussing the first episode of Obi-Wan Kenobi. And if you'd like to watch along, we'll keep spoilers limited to the current episode being discussed. Chris, how was your watch of the series?
This is one of the series that I was most looking forward to that Disney has done since they've done Disney Plus. And I want to say that it didn't disappoint. It's just really hard for a TV show to be set in a time frame where you know what happened before it and you know what happened after it. So I think a lot of the things that maybe I'm not going to like as much come from the fact that I already know how it ends and I already saw how it began. Like this is the middle chapter that they're trying to shoehorn in. But honestly, it's a Star Wars show and I love Star Wars, so I'm here for all of it. And I did really like the Obi-Wan series. What about you, Tom? What did you think of your watch?
I did watch it on my computer to give the stats here, my Disney Plus with my new speakers and what have you. I yeah, it's a show. I watched all the episodes. I enjoy The Mandalorian, I think, a lot more. We did The Mandalorian last year at this time, and I had some criticisms of it. I'm not the biggest Mandalorian fan, but The Mandalorian has a sort of verve and spirit to it. There's a bit of fun. There's a bit of kind of Saturday morning energy to it, which I think is unfortunately missing from a lot of comic book movies and media that's coming out. And Star Wars kind of falls into this realm, right, of sort of fun childhood influenced types of media, and a lot of it now has become much more serious. And I think this show is uh, much less light than The Mandalorian. It's much more, I don't want to say self-important because that isn't exactly right, but it is dealing with something like the American myth, right? The Skywalker series is sort of become the American Bible in its own way. And so it really almost can't have a light touch, right? This is Darth Vader and Obi-Wan Kenobi and these huge names. Yeah, and so there is a sort of weight to this material that I don't think necessarily helps it. It makes it almost feel slow. Um, and that was my general first impression. KJ, how was your first impression?
So I really enjoyed this show, audience. And I'm more of a movie guy. I don't watch too many TV shows, but I was really excited. I watched this one week to week, which was really fun. And I think the last time I did that was Game of Thrones. So every Wednesday I was like, "Ooh, let's watch Obi-Wan." But spoilers, it starts with a recap, which was really good for my mom. So if you're like a Star Wars fan but you're not really sure where this fits in, don't worry. It starts with a really good recap. Yes, it takes place on Tatooine, like all the Star Wars stuff, so it gets real confusing. But don't worry, the recap will set you straight. But trigger warning: this came out 3 days after the Texas school shooting, and it opens up with a pretty tough scene to watch with that in mind. So just want to give you guys a heads up if you haven't seen it yet. The opening scene's kind of tough to watch. Um, Also, I think Star Wars works best when our heroes are the underdogs, and I think this is a great example of that. How about you, Nick? What do you think of Obi-Wan?
I was surprised actually how much you were like praising it before we started this series because you actually wanted to take over the questions, which is awesome because you had a passion for it. I didn't have the same passion. Now, I don't think it was bad. I think it was okay, but I think the big challenge I had was in my head, this was overhyped in the sense that you would hear rumors of this project. It's going to be a movie. It's going to be this. It's going to be that. And finally, it found a home on streaming. So there was a lot of hype already built up to this, some expectations. Maybe I was biased by some story plot lines that I thought were going to happen that didn't. But it was a little inconsistent with the energy to me. So there's certain scenes and certain parts I really like, and other parts I'm like, they just phoned that in. So that was my problem. I think we'll get into it as we progress through the episodes in the weeks to come. But that was my biggest hurdle. I will say, I do like The Mandalorian. I'm specifically saying season one, but the way it started off stronger, I thought that was really saying that Star Wars is back after the last trilogy. I'll leave it at that. Boba Fett, there are action scenes, the book of Boba Fett, which I actually really enjoyed in part, sometimes better than this, but the flow of that show was all over the place. So at least this had a streamlined story that it wanted to tell, and we'll explore that in the weeks to come. Obi-Wan Kenobi is only available on Disney Plus at the time of this recording, and probably in perpetuity.